So now let's look at how forgiveness specifically benefits the person who forgives. And I know in your previous answer, you've just touched upon this already. You've spoken a lot about it. Specifically here, I wanted to ask, how does a person feel after they've forgiven someone who harmed them?
Yeah, so before we were looking at the physical effects on the soul and the bodies.
Yeah.
Right. Now we want to examine more the emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before forgiveness, as I said, there are emotions of resentment, hatred, anger, frustration, annoyance, and all of these they are painful emotions that cause your unhappiness. They exist within you. You're carrying them around everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Everything you do is being infected literally by these emotions. Once you've forgiven, because those emotions no longer exist within you, no longer is there any of those effects. In fact, now you're open to love, compassion, as I said before, understanding, kindness, even understanding the person who you forgave. You even understand the choices they made and what caused them, and if you want, and you often feel even driven to help them if they would receive such help. And you can see everything so clearly. You can see the error that was perpetrated and its effects really clearly. Everything, the effects in you, the effects in them. And you also have this fairly strong desire to help them if they're willing to be helped, of course, which is very, often not the case. But you still have a desire to. And remember, whenever we have a pure desire like that, God acts as if we've done it.
Yeah.
So that gets rewarded too. So there are a lot of beautiful, happy events that occur to the person who's forgiven. Somebody. Yeah.
And I associate forgiveness, before forgiveness, with feeling very burdened and bound to the past,
and bound to the person,
and bound to the person. That's how it feels to me.
It is.
And then when forgiveness is complete, it's like a feeling of freedom. Like I'm free from that event and that terrible negative bind to a person.
And this is what most people don't realise. When you don't forgive, there is emotional projections coming out of you, going towards them of anger, resentment and so forth. And then there are going to be subsequent emotions coming out of them towards you for that anger and resentment and so forth.
Yeah.
And so what you really are doing emotionally and in an energy system is binding yourself now to their life.
Yeah.
So now every thought they have about you, you feel.
Yeah.
Every feeling they have about you, you feel. So not only is there the original sin now that, harmed you, but now you've got this binding effect where you're actually feeling what they feel about you all the time.
Yeah.
And feeling, how they feel about you all the time and so forth. And it's quite disturbing. And then all of a sudden when that's broken, it's like you go for weeks or months even without even thinking about them, and certainly you don't act like their projection at you might have been you're a useless person. You no longer think you're a useless person. And things like that.
So it's an incredibly liberated feeling if you contrast those two states.
Yes.
One is very bound and heavy, and on the other side of forgiveness, it's almost like it sort of feels to me sometimes like lack of forgiveness chains me to this past event that's weighing on me.
And chains you to the person who
and
perpetrated
the person. And it's almost like breaking the chain and being able to move forward with my life.
Yes. Without even the past life affecting your forward decisions.
Yes, because at the moment, for many issues, I feel how much the past that I haven't let go of is affecting my forward movement.
Yeah.
And any break that I make from the past feels like a huge, wow, I've got energy to move forward on an issue that's not affected by these negative beliefs, past hurts, all of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
A very powerful effect on the person who forgives.
Yes.
In fact, it's a more powerful effect on the person who forgives than the person who's forgiven.
Yeah.
And God designed it that way purposefully.
Yeah.
So that it would benefit the person who forgives more than it benefits the person who he's forgiven.
It's forgiven. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's frequently not understood.
No.
You know, frequently I see all sorts of things playing out in the world's, you know, in day-to-day life in the world, you know, you see the news and so forth, where people hold on to so much resentment and rage and anger and so forth that they can't see they're destroying their own soul, can't see they're destroying their own life, their own future. They're pulling this past into the present constantly, and it's affecting their future choices and decisions, and therefore are going to affect their future while they continue to do it. And all of that disappears when you forgive. So, you know, there's no good reason at all for a person to choose to not forgive. And there's plenty of benefits to forgiving for the person who does the forgiving. Even if the person who's, you know, done the deed, the sin, even if there's no benefit to them.
We'll talk specifically in a later session about what that's like for the person who's forgiven.
Yeah, we need to sort of spend a bit of time on that emotionally, because it's so important to understand the binding that occurs and the binding of your life and how much it destroys every decision, every you know, your marriage, your life, your children, everything you do in your life is affected by the things you choose to not forgive.
To not forgive.
Yeah, and that's why the process of forgiveness, and particularly the process of forgiving parents, because they're the ones who perpetrate a lot of harm towards a child who could not, prevent that harm. And it's a very important process in your life choices for your future. Very important process. And in the end, you'll also have some deep clarity about what is wrong from God's perspective and what is right from God's perspective. And this helps guide you to do what is right yourself in your life.
And as a parent yourself, if you are a parent.
If you are a parent, it guides you as a parent as well. So, there are some amazingly beautiful benefits for forgiving. And the problem is most of us don't see it. And in fact, we feel that we're giving a whole heap of power to the person who we're forgiving and so forth. And none of that is true at all. And in fact, you know, you see this playing out all the time too, you know. We recently watched a thing where a woman had been raped, and she was on a panel with other women who had not been raped, ironically. And the woman who'd been raped had gone through some of the process of forgiving the perpetrator. And the woman who hadn't been raped were in such a rage that she did it. Like, amazing. Like, they don't see the calmness of this girl and the way that it's no longer affecting the rest of her life and the action she's taken. And while she might not have gone through the process completely, she certainly had gone a long way towards addressing the issue.
Much further than just about anyone that I've ever heard talk about it.
Exactly.